Hi, it's Robert Mitchell, and on September 14, 2010, during the Toronto International Film Festival, I had the privilege and the honor to meet the director and cast of the film A Horrible Way to Die and interview them. The film has since gone on to garner huge amounts of critical acclaim and has won major awards at the Fantastic Fest, which has recently wrapped in Austin, Texas. Yesterday I was privileged to watch a film, A Horrible Way to Die, which is a very haunting, atmospheric film, the kind of film that will stay with you long after the credits roll. And I have to say it's a real achievement in current American independent cinema. And I'm very honored to have the director of the film, Adam Wingard, sitting beside me today. A lot of the supporting players, they were just, great faces, just great American faces, and you never really see that in films at all. And I kind of was a little privy to the casting process through Twitter and whatnot, but I was wondering, how did you and Simon was Paramount and casting also, how did you guys find these? I don't think there are actors, there are a lot of non-actors in the film.
Well, like all the main speaking parts, besides the three leads were people that I specifically brought in, like Lane Hughes and Brandon Carroll, people that I've worked with in the past. And, it's just, the film itself is one of those things where it has a ton of speaking parts. And so it was difficult on a lower budget to find, people that were going to fit. And in some cases, some stuff got cut out of the film because, you shoot a lot of stuff and you try to make it all work. But ultimately, when you're kind of pigeonholed in a certain situation, you can't always get what you want. So there was definitely just like this kind of like broad, like let's find whoever we can find, put it all together. And it was definitely a day-by-day type of process, even in editing, where it was like, if they didn't manage to remain to be interesting or whatever, then they just weren't going to make the cut. So the best of the best is in the film. Yeah.
What have you learned prior, like before your other films and now finishing this film? What have you learned as a director?
I guess like the main thing is I came into this one with a different mindset that I had in my last film, which Popsicle was one of these things where we had all the time in the world to shoot it because it was like so low budget that we were just shooting it whenever we had the time, whenever we had the actors. And I ended up with like 90 hours worth of footage on that thing. And it was just because I wasn't sure what was going to work, what was going to be the best way to do things. So on this one, I came at it with a little bit more of a confidence and decided to throw away doing any master shots or anything of that nature. And for the most part, I just wanted the movie to be shot with long lenses, which we pretty much did the whole time. No tripod, and just like let the camera and these close-ups kind of paint the action as it goes. And I was able to do that because I had the confidence that I knew that it would work. And it's one of those things where, like, even though I knew it would work, I didn't realize how hard it was actually going to be to actually shoot this entire movie handheld, because the camera we were using was, it was pretty heavy. It was upwards like 15, 20 pounds. Which isn't that much, but whenever you're holding it every day, all day, you get to the point you're like, why did I choose to shoot the movie like this, And actually, since then, I've shot a couple things with Joe, and we've just stuck it on the tripod and just push record, and we're just like, okay, this is how we're going to do it for right now.
Could you elaborate on your character a little bit for people who haven't seen the film?
Sure. I play Amy's new love interest in the film. We meet at Alcoholics Anonymous, and we start up a relationship, and I don't know anything about her shady past.
I play Sarah, and Sarah is trying to start over. She had a very traumatic experience with her ex-boyfriend, and she's now trying to turn a new leaf and start a new life with AA and a new place and a new town. And she's trying to start over, but she's finding it very hard because her past is coming back to haunt her.
Garrick is he's a really thoughtful, decent person to exactly one person in his life, his girlfriend. And to everyone else, he is a serial killer. He he has some real serious issues to sort out in terms of violence towards everyone else but her. So he's a sweetheart to her and a generally unpleasant person to everyone else.
One thing I was wondering, it's a pretty intense role, and what kind of research and preparation would you do to tackle that role?
Well, I don't necessarily do a ton of research. A lot of it is, in my opinion, is getting to know him and getting to know his style and understanding the tone that he's going for. I mean, because it's all very surreal and otherworldly, and I don't necessarily know if me just continuing to read articles about girlfriends of serial killers would necessarily, I'd be able to execute that. But I understand his tone and like what he's going for, and it also depends on who I'm acting with. So once I knew AJ was doing it, then I've known AJ for a while now, so I knew that we would have like a real good banter and be able to execute the tone. So a lot of it has to do with being on set and figuring out how to do pacing and mood and emotionally connect to the characters.
Actually, it was kind of interesting because I just read David Foster Wallace's book Infinite Jest, which a lot of that takes place in Narcotics Anonymous meetings and Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. So I didn't do any research beyond that, but the timing worked out really well because that stuff was all still fresh in my head about the way those meetings go and the kind of people that attend, and his personal thoughts and feelings about it, the way religion enters into it, and some things like that.
Well, I do a lot of research when it comes to building a character, and specifically in this one, clearly it's like I can research serial killers, but that seemed a little bit on the nose. And one of the things that Adam and I and Amy talked a lot about was the concept of addiction, and we decided to go because I wanted to. It was really important for me to sort of try to humanize Garrick in as much as I could. And it's really hard to do when they're a serial killer, particularly violent one. So we decided to come at it with the violence, with this is as a compulsion, something that he desperately doesn't want to do, but he's compelled to and he can't stop. So I did a lot of addiction research and treated it sort of thematically. We were aided by the fact that the character of Sarah has a very serious problem with alcoholism. So I did a lot of research into that by doing a lot of problem drinking and basically staying at the bottom of a bottle for a good 3 months leading into that's not true. But no, it was we did a lot of chemical addiction and behavioral addiction problems. Try to come in at that angle.
David Fincher has described his serial killer films in a coin that he's termed as the wet work, where he will show or not show, but the wet work of the actual physical acts that a serial killer will perform. One thing I noticed watching your film is you show great restraint with the violence. Obviously, the story, there's going to be violence in it. How did you approach that?
Well, I think that it was one of those things where we mainly didn't show things. It wasn't even necessarily, I don't think, for like any kind of taste reasons, but just because I couldn't really fully figure out what would be like a totally real way to, actually show that kind of violence. Because, I mean, people murdering each other in like horrific, violent ways is happening all the time. It's happening right now. But like really, when it comes down to it, it's really almost impossible to me to really be able to accurately depict what that really means, or in this case also what it really means to be a serial killer, which is why we kind of took more of a route of like an outsider's perspective. The film is always kind of observing AJ as, this killer, but we're never really telegraphing what's actually going on in his mind, because in all honesty, it's really impossible. I mean, I've read so much stuff about serial killers over the years, but it never brings me any closer to like really why it happens, or and that was kind of like the whole take I had on it, which is like ultimately before I even started shooting, I realized this is just impossible to show what this is, so we're just gonna have to put it on screen and, just give you more of a topical view of it, because that's really all you can do,
really wonderful. Again, I'm going back to the tone thing because he is such an atmospheric director that he, as an actor, it's really great to be working in that environment, because even if you feel like you're doing a bad job, you know that he's going to like fill it in with atmosphere. It's like just a really supportive way to work, because you're not afraid to make choices. Because there's a lot of times where if you're acting in something, you don't want to look stupid. I know the goal is to get away from that, but I've been in a lot of movies where you can see yourself making choices. This is one of those films that his camera work and his directing style and his vision kind of hides your choices, and you look like a character, which is what the ultimate goal is. But yeah, he's a very like sensory and tone and mood and heavy, and everything has a feeling to it, and that's like, it's great to perform in that atmosphere, because it's just, you're not acting anymore. It's all just like kind of a meditation on performing what he is giving off. So,
well, when I watched the film, it's your performance is very brave and challenging, and obviously that's a testament to you as an actor and Adam as a director. He creates this environment where you can take risk.
Yeah, definitely, and it was a really fun set too. I mean, it was probably the biggest production that I've ever acted in, but it felt very comfortable, and everybody, it's a small movie, and everybody was on the same page, and so the environment every day was really easy to sort of feel vulnerable in, and it was fun also to act with Amy, because she's acted in some films of mine, so we've known each other for like 2 years now, and we've worked together a lot, so that also made it like really comfortable and safe feeling. And she's great. She like, I just a lot of times would just watch her. It's like my acting technique was watch her act. So, but yeah, I loved working on it. It was really a pleasure.
And it's very nuanced too. I think it's beautifully structured and a nuanced performance by you and everybody. You guys did a fantastic job.
Thank you very much. It's a big part of the nuance was Adam's direction, and also Adam shot it as well, and since he was on camera all the time, we got into this flow. There's a sort of flow, a sort of poetic sort of flow to the photography of it, and since he was running the camera, we just sort of live in silence a lot. I know that the dialogue's fairly sparse for a lot of the film, and that was very intentional. We cut as much dialogue as we could, because we just kind of wanted to live in that in between, We weren't very interested in exposition. We were interested in more of what happens in the day-to-day.
Jasper and I have been working together for a couple years doing short films. He scored my last movie with a friend of ours, Kyle McKinnon, Pop Skull. And on this one, we kind of approach it, because I like to edit my films with a score in place. So early on, I was having tons of conversations with him, like, okay, this is what I want, this is what I want. And initially, I wanted more of like a Michael Nyman type of sound, more of that Baroque kind of like, charging kind of sound. And he started working on some demos of that kind of stuff. But then as I was filming, because it was one of those things where I was letting the film kind of intuitively create itself, I realized that was kind of like the wrong angle on it altogether. So I had to like start putting footage together, took some stills, and I just started showing them images from the film, and it was kind of like, okay, we know that we want kind of an organic sound to our score, not a ton of synth stuff, some, but not primarily. But like, I just gave him the images, and I was like, forget everything we've talked about, just do what you do, and which is really how we work anyway. So it was kind of like, I tried to take like this other approach, which I thought would be correct, but then I realized, ultimately, nothing else in this film was like planned in that kind of way. So this is going to be the same kind of thing, So he just kind of put it all together and gave me a couple pieces. Literally everything he gave me ended up in the movie, because we had so little time to get the film off to Toronto. He just was barely able to get me just enough, and it all worked great. It's his best work too.